Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 7 of Tank Talk. I am James Star, aka Relics. With me, as usual, on my right is Kirill Bandar, aka Soviet. And right below me here is our team captain, Nagatron, aka, well, I guess it's David Williams, aka Nagatron. I almost nailed that intro perfectly. And I just had to ruin it on Nagatron.
Getting worse and worse.
That was getting better. Alright. So we got a lot of tournament talk that we're going to do today, and then we're going to go into a little bit more on the big super test changes that are being leaked right now. They're not anything absolutely official, so we'll just kind of talk about what the implications of those are, and like I said, go through some tournament information. So let's jump right into it. So starting out, news. I really only have one thing big going on here, and that is the on track to the T110E5 event. So we again have another one like they had with the IS-7, where they're doing a 30% discount and 30% credit increase if you drive a T32, M103, or T110E5. So that's a pretty good one. I might have to play some E5. I remember that being a pretty good credit earner. So that should be pretty good. I'm sure David's happy that. Well, I guess we're not doing Clan Wars as much anymore, so you don't really care about the influx of T110E5s that are going to be coming out of this.
It's not like we had a problem with them in Forge anyways.
Yeah, that's true.
So whatever patch that came out, it was like everybody get an E5. Done. Very, very quickly.
At least it's not a path to like the T57 or something like that.
I, I still think E5 is a good tank to have. So for those that don't have it, definitely a good event.
Yeah.
And I7, of course, was better by far. But
I don't know about that. I don't know.
have to appease the peasants somehow.
Yeah, I think the other big
It
thing
had
there
its
is,
day.
yeah, it did. The T32 being on sale. I mean, that's one of the big staples of some of the city plays. So if you're looking to get into tournaments, it's a good one to try to finish your grind to. So it's good stuff. So let's go ahead and jump into tournament information here. So starting out, we have Skirmish 20 coming up that you can register for right now. Let's go ahead and bring that up here. So we have it being 6v6 with Tier 6 heavies, TDs, and lights, Tier 7 medium tanks, and Tier 3 artillery. 26 points total, no duplicates. It's going to be played on mines with the 10-minute timer, and first place, as usual for skirmishes, gets 5k gold. So it's kind of interesting. They've been doing a lot of the no duplicate tournaments. I wonder if that's just like it seems like it's to combat some of the that one tank that dominates every tournament. I'm not sure. Do you guys think that's for the better having the no duplicates, or do you think
It's
it's
certainly
better
more
to
interesting.
yeah,
And the whole point of skirmishes is to be dynamic and different and fun. So, of course, they want to cut down on tank spam.
yeah, definitely. What do you,
Six versus six on mines, though. I remember the 5 versus 5, the infamous 5 versus 5 tournament on mines, like way back when. God, that was just awful. But we'll see.
was it like super campy?
Yeah, there was like, I think it was one of the tournaments where there was like 8 or
It's the
9.
2801s. So,
Uh,
so
yeah,
what
I
you're
think
talking
so.
about?
Yeah, I think so. Yep.
Hmm.
Tier 5 cap, and there was like
It's like
teams were
Siegfried
bringing.
Line or something. I
Yeah,
think we had it in a skirmish, followed by that in a challenge, so it seemed like it was forever.
It all
But
bleeds together.
maybe. Yeah.
but yeah, I mean that one looks like what? Not Wolverines, Hellcats. That's a tier 6. KB1S maybe, but there's a lot of those like T-3485's got a derp gun. There's a lot of pretty strong tanks at tier 6. It should be interesting.
Well, Tier 7 medium too.
Oh, oh,
So that makes it even a little bit more different because then you could bring essentially, I mean, what? So 3 Tier 7s. You're probably not even going to play 6v6 in that. Now that I think about it, I mean, I guess you'll have some low tier tanks because just those 3 brings up 21 points and it's a 26 point max. That only leaves you with 4 tanks. I don't know. Maybe like
Well,
doing like bring a Tier 3 artillery and a T1 or something like that.
and what artillery? We already pretty much know the answer, right?
Storm Panzer 2, of course, the best Tier
Yeah.
3 artillery ever.
And for that map, that already.
on mines,
Yeah.
Su-26,
I guess you can.
Su-26.
I don't know.
You don't need to.
Okay.
You only need to control the hill. I mean, the Sturmpanzer can do it, but I don't know, man.
That arc, man,
Oh.
it's pretty nice. And then you got the higher
Yeah.
penetration. It's got better penetration than the Su-26 does.
I guess it really
what
just
tier
depends
6
on where
is,
you want to put your tanks.
Yeah, true. True. So what else in tournaments we have going on? We started NVidia this week. We've been through 2 matches now.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm pretty glad that's starting up now. It's last week was really busy between having all the NVIDIA tournament stuff. We had the majors going on. We had Alienware going on. That was a pretty dang long week. Felt like. Did they? I saw something earlier, and actually I meant to check that. Did they change the days for NVIDIA to Tuesdays, Thursdays again? They keep changing the calendar days. Is it still
No.
Mondays, Thursdays?
Yeah, Mondays, Thursdays last I saw.
Okay. I saw somebody.
Hope they
say
didn't
something
change it to Tuesday.
about that. Well, it keeps
Be a
changing
problem
all
for
over the
me.
place. I don't know. How do you guys think that's going to work out so far? With I mean, we had 2 matches so far where we had the whole map picking situation where you pick two and then you go to the third default map. Do you like the map picking situation? Like how that works out?
I think it's kind of a cool dynamic. Sometimes it causes a little bit of problems. I think all of us know that at this point.
Yeah.
But it's a cool concept, at least. What do you think, Soviet?
I agree. Dynamic kind of keeps us on the edge because I think a lot of times when we're in a tournament and it's been going on for like 2 weeks and it's the same map over and over and over again, it gets a little bit boring. So I definitely like the picking aspect of it. And some teams are stronger on open maps. Some teams are horrible on open maps, and you can utilize that against them if you're picking the map. So it gives both teams a chance to pick their favorite map.
Yeah, I definitely like that you're able to kind of like pick out the other team's the strengths and try to play that against them with it. I think we had one match. It was either an Alienware or the other one where we saw they were a little bit weaker on the open maps, and so we picked another open map, knowing that to try to take advantage of their not so comfortable with those fast tanks. So I definitely think it's interesting. Obviously, we're not going to know too much going into the NVIDIA yet because we're just in the pool play. We have like, what, 3 or 4 weeks of pool play? I think it goes somewhere into like mid-June before the actual playoffs start for that. Before we have
June. Yeah, first playoff date is June 13th, and that's a Thursday, I believe. So June whatever 10th or 10th, I guess, is the last day of
No,
the bracket
It's
play.
it's like June 1st, I think.
Yeah.
Let me look at the calendar. Not 1st, 3rd. I think it's
Third.
June 3rd because I have to travel during that week, and I know it doesn't conflict during that. They were trying to make sure that it doesn't overlap with the Russian finals, I think, so that the
Okay.
Russians could do both.
Yep, because we definitely want them in the international tournament. It's not an international tournament without the Russians being able to participate with their best teams. Give us good competition. Let's see. I was going to go someplace else with that. So yeah, we have the playoffs eventually there, where it's going to be, I believe, 32 teams total after all the pool play. So it'll be interesting to see who all gets into that. After this, we'll go ahead and segue into the Alienware tournament. After the Alienware tournament, I'm actually really interested to see the actual playoffs play through. We played through a lot of good teams. I believe both of these are double elimination too, which I absolutely love how the double elimination worked out. Where a good team gets knocked out early through the playoffs, and they can battle their way all the way up through the top again to face off with that final team. So I think that worked out really well. What did you guys think of the Alienware tournament that we just came out of?
I loved it because I showed up in the finals, played 2 games, and that was it. You guys should probably talk more about it than that.
I'm glad we could carry you through to the
Best
finals.
tournament ever.
Oh, it was great.
It was amazing. Fastest tournament ever. I guess let's go ahead and break it down then, Soviet. So more specifically, we're looking at Saturday was just like a big marathon of like 6 hours of tournament play. What did you think of going through all that with the teams that we were facing?
It started off a bit slow, and I got kind of worried. I think our first game was forfeit of the enemy team, and we were afraid that a lot of teams wouldn't know the rules. But luckily, we actually had good teams. come up real quick in the bracket. I think second or third game was already pretty much solid gameplay. At least people showed up and somewhat knew the rules. So it started working, and I think as the more tournaments we have of this style, the more tournaments where it's controlled and policed by the players as much as possible, so that everybody participates, everybody knows what's going on. They can help each other out on setting up the tournament, the training room, the setting up, the points and everything like that. It will gradually increase the awareness of what's going on. Or when they're watching a live stream, let's say Golden League, they're looking at that stream and they'll know exactly what's going on, how tanks are picked, why they're picked, what maps are picked, and all that stuff. So I like the format. I was worried that it's going to be worse, but it turned out to be pretty good. The only negative was, of course, most of our Saturday was just down the drain.
Oh, yeah.
Well, not down the drain, I guess, but
it was
it was a long, long Saturday. Well, Nagatron wasn't there.
I know, he was out partying while, we're working hard.
It was only a night.
I
was busy working all day long till we had the majors, and then I got to go party.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And then not sleep, and then play a tournament.
Yeah. It all works out.
But you also mentioned the double elimination format.
Yeah.
Relics, and we saw that in, I think, PAX and WCG, right? So we saw that before, and now even the Golden League, the Russian guys, are saying that that's the way it should be.
Really?
I'm really glad that this is happening. I'm really glad that they're coming out and they're saying that already. Golden League finals that we're going to see in June, I think 4th, 5th, and 6th or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
5th through 7th. I don't know.
So I believe it's June 7th through 9th.
Okay.
Somewhere around there. It's that weekend, though.
I'm going to title this episode Bad with Dates.
Cool. So they are going to do double elimination there in the LAN finals, which I think is just perfect because that's how you decide, a true winner.
Right. Well, it's interesting that that's stretching the Golden League. So hopefully, whenever we get our own league or the European one, maybe they'll take that up because it definitely works out a lot better. Especially working through the playoffs, you never know that if you're going to match it up with the other top tier team and get knocked right out, and you're the second place team. I mean, you want that chance to be able to work your way all the way back up because that a lot of these teams that any given Sunday they could beat each other and knock each other out. So it's good.
More importantly, for live tournaments, it's not as big of a deal, although there are certainly a lot of other factors and pressures with live tournaments. People who have to play first, or they play back-to-back and somebody watches their strategies or something like that. But with internet tournaments, it's a much bigger deal because what if you had a guy disconnect? Or there's just lag in general, or any of the millions of things that can go wrong while you're playing.
Mm-hmm.
At least you have a second chance, and we can truly find out who was best,
Yeah, definitely. Let's see, where do we want to segue into that? I still want to talk a little bit more about Alienware.
Well, I actually brought up the bracket while you guys were talking, and for us, Fulcrum Gaming, we had 2 forfeits in the first round. So
that's right.
First two.
Well, the first one was a bye, I think.
Well, yeah, we had a bye and then a forfeit by they actually didn't show up, and they were nice enough to tell us, "Hey, listen, we forfeit. Just report it on the scoreboard," and that's that. Then we had River of Blood, great team. They are, I believe, in the Open League right now.
Yep.
Surprising turn of events there for them, qualifying for the majors, not going through and going all the way down to the Open League, but a very competent team. And actually, that was our only loss in that entire tournament. We dropped the game to River of Blood, and then kept going through.
That was actually really good too, playing with them. I think they were probably. I wouldn't say our biggest competition in it, but I think I was the most worried in those matches. They really did a good job. So it's good to see that even with them being bumped down to the Open League, that they're still a force to be reckoned with.
I definitely agree, and one of the things is we haven't seen them in a while now. In tournaments, we have always kind of missed the matchups. They're usually on the other side of the brackets. For example, when we were doing the skirmishes or challenges, and their play style is definitely something different, something more more dynamic, I would say, than other teams that we usually play versus. So it was a good challenge, good change up for us. And as you see on the bracket, they did win a game on us. So good matchup there. And then from there on out, it was teams were showing up. It was good teams. So that bracket really kind of narrowed down into high-end competition. All the teams showing up, paying attention, and up until, of course, the finals.
Yeah, it was definitely good. It was interesting that we fought. I'm pretty sure if I remember the bracket right, we fought Simp first at one point in the bracket, and then they actually came back up through the losers bracket after a couple rounds, and we fought them again at the end. And Simp always being really good competitors. There were also some other really good teams there. We had like Mott 4 pushed it through. We had another team that was in the top of that lower bracket. I can't remember which team it was. But there was just a lot of impressive play across the board, and that kind of carries into, I think, the NVidia stuff. Once we get out of these actual the bracket play, not bracket play, the pool play.
Pool play.
I think when we get down to those like straight 32 teams that are in the top, I think that'll make the end bracket extremely interesting all the way throughout. Just seeing how many opponents we went through that were really good, and seeing these other teams like struggle against some of the teams that we don't necessarily know anything about. So I think we have like a lot of good competition that'll be able to fill in those 32 spots. Cool. Anything else you want to talk about, like Alienware? Or?
Well, Alienware, for those of you that missed it, check it out on twitch.tv, The Handsome Nerd, I think. The
Yep.
video on demand is there. You can watch that. Also, you can watch the European final that was broadcasted. And there, it was the prize was 875 euros for the first place, and it was Red Rush versus Synergy for the final. And interestingly enough, Red Rush. Well, actually, no, I'm not going to spoil it. Sorry. We'll just watch it.
We'll get the
Just
links
watch
and we'll
it.
put it in the YouTube video once we upload this.
They're just
Definitely.
Rush now, aren't they?
Rush.
They're no
yeah.
longer associated with Red.
I was going to ask
No,
that actually.
they are.
They are?
Yeah, they are.
How did they
I
play
was
the
casting
European
earlier
one?
today. Their clan tags were Crab 1.
Oh, that's similar too. They just, yeah, don't worry about that.
All right, I'm
It's
just going to
Don't worry about that.
Forget about it a
I'll
little bit.
tell you. I'll tell you a funny story about that though. In Russia, they call a lot of players that are bad, or newbies or stuff like that. They call them crabs because they're on the bottom of the ocean, bottom of the sea, absolute
I
bottom,
gotcha.
rock bottom, right? So as a joke, they made this clan Crab One, and they're calling themselves, the crabs of the server. So that's what that is from.
They have so many better stories over there for all the stuff they name things.
Oh yeah, they have a
People
lot
call
of
them
fun.
people call them seals here. I could just make a clan called Seal. We have it. We have them.
People call them seals here? I never heard that. That's what we call newbies here?
Clubbing
just-
seals.
Am I
Never
just
heard
out
of
of the
that?
loop?
I think it's because all the cool kids, they start playing after you've long gone to IHOP and then bed.
Yeah. Oh, IHOP, how I love thee.
Senior discount. Can't quit it.
I wish I could get a senior discount. I'd eat there even more often. Cool. So, obviously, if you haven't mentioned yet, or haven't caught on, we won the Alienware tournaments. Simp took seconds. I had to say it eventually, pats on selves, backs. Yeah. And who took third on that, I wonder? Oh, troll face. Soviet with props now.
Oh yeah, stepping up the game.
Who took third out of it?
Mop 4
Okay.
took third. MOPP4.
So congrats
And-
to all three of us on our cash prizes. I think it was
Yeah, hopefully they keep going with it.
Yeah.
Nice little prize. I mean, the value was criticized by a lot of players, but they have to realize that companies that are new to this, like Alienware and NVidia, they're going to be kind of hesitant to drop big money right away. They want to see how it builds up, how they build up the viewership, the following. And one surprising thing out of it, personally, and I think you guys agree with me, is how poorly the event was covered by Wargaming here in North America, at least. I don't know how it was in Europe or Russia, but I don't know. A lot of players that I usually play with, or a lot of players that watch our stream, didn't know about it at all, that it was going on. So
was our
Yeah,
brief hate on wargaming section right there.
a
Need
tiny
more
bit, but
publicity
hey,
for esports because I mean, that's what's gonna drive your game, and a big
if
thing like Alienware running a tournament for you. That guy? No. Oh yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
if people are gonna try, might as well try yourself, especially if you're the game developer. Well, or representing the game developer here. But hey,
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe next time.
So keep an eye out for the NVIDIA stuff. We'll do some more coverage on that. Obviously, we've talked about this plenty of times before that me and Nagatron are going to be doing casting for it when it comes to the actual playoffs. So sometime in June, we'll be looking at doing that and hopefully putting some really good videos together for you guys. I think that's pretty much everything we have for tournaments. Anything else anybody has going on with tournaments they want to bring up?
Classic League, you kind
Oh,
of
Classic League. Yeah, I skipped past it. So for those of you that are in the Classic League, I know I segued
bad
right
at
into
his own
Alienware.
show.
I know. I'm tired.
Bad at his own
tired
show,
today.
man.
So we have the Classic League playoffs are going to start this Sunday. So it's about time that started. The Classic League seems to take a long time to get through. So I'll be looking forward to getting back into our tier 10s and seeing what we can do during that. And hopefully we'll be able to follow that week to week and see what the progress is. So.
Yeah, and perhaps we'll try streaming it, unless it's.
Oh, that's
I
right.
guess it was an interesting stream, being a player and streaming it at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Classic League kind of allows that to happen because, first of all, the numbers of the team are much larger. So me, for example, being a little bit less attentive to what's being said or whatnot, I can just go off of whoever I'm paired with. Hey! I'm just saying. For now.
We're showing Royal this video.
Okay. Okay.
Soviet's not paying attention to what you're saying.
Any day, still better than Relics. So.
Oh. But yeah, I think we should definitely keep
What kind of bar
that.
is that?
It's a really low bar. Way down.
It's like playing a par 12.
So mean. But we should definitely keep that up. Since we're actually going into playoffs, I think every week we'll actually have probably battles to have. I mean, that was the one issue that we had with the casting of the Classic League before is we get on to cast and like we have all the wait time and then, oh, hey, look, it's a technical battle.
Or one guy shows up.
Yeah. See you next week. So at least I think we'll start getting good battles, especially as we get through that bracket, and it'll be more interesting. So that'll be Sundays. I think it's around like 8 Eastern or something like that. So we'll put something up for that when we start it up.
Yep.
Cool. So let's get to the.
I think one more bit of tournament news.
Oh.
I think I'm allowed to say this now. At least Dorjan said it earlier while we were streaming. I will get to be going out to the finals, the Golden League finals, the Russian finals in Kiev, Ukraine. So Dorjan and I will be casting those for the English-speaking audiences and whatnot. I think that will take place. I think it's around noon Eastern is when it starts. But other than that, I mean, you guys can still check out the VODs and all that. I think it's going to be extremely interesting. The Russian teams are always a blast to watch, and I think that's really the cutting edge of WOT competition right there. So tune in.
Yeah, it'd be extremely cool to have you out there casting with Dorjan. That's a big deal. So congratulations on that.
Congratulations. Kiev
Congratulations.
is going to be an awesome city. Lots of stuff to see there. Hopefully, you'll get some time to walk around and see some tanks. There's an awesome park there dedicated to World War II. And yeah, I'll tell you more about it.
Keep an eye on your lungs and your liver and all that stuff while you're out there too.
Yeah.
All right, let's get
When in Rome.
Let's jump into our discussion stuff. So the first thing I want to talk about, which we learned probably a couple weeks ago, is the changes to heat. Heat is going to be getting big nerfs to the ammunition, specifically in the penetration area. Just to give an example, we don't have a lot of information on the higher tier tanks, but here's what we're looking at. For specifically looking at the M4 Sherman and the PZ4, which are the classic derp tanks that everybody has come to love and absolutely hate. So looking at the M4 Sherman, you can see the rate of fire is not being changed, average damage is not being changed, nothing with the accuracy or aim time, but the average penetration for the heat round, which is the one on the right side, goes from 150 to what it was before, down to 101.6. And the PZ4 goes from 150 down to 104. So that's a pretty big nerf on the heat rounds there. And the word of it is that this is going to expand to all the other tanks that use heat rounds as well. Um, I don't know. What do you guys think about this change they're looking at to doing to the heat, reducing all that penetration? It seemed kind of like the heat rounds, like penetration was their thing. They're supposed to be the big penetration. At least that's how it seems like they've been playing it.
They had too much penetration. We've talked about that
Hmm.
several times. Um,
We've seen it coming pretty much.
Yeah.
mhm. I've heard some rumors about prospective changes in how heat rounds operate, though. Have you seen anything official on that?
I haven't seen anything official on that. Just the penetration value changes is what I've been able to find.
Hmm. It's probably a more balanced approach. I had heard some rumors about heat not going through spaced armor because not through both layers of the armor, because technically once it goes through the spaced armor, it should detonate at that point. But that would obviously really, really mess up a lot of the tanks in the game. So at least lowering the penetration values has been a long time coming.
Now, do you think this? So looking at something like a T69 stretching to those heat rounds. I mean, obviously we're going from like 300 penetration for the heat round, and then 200 and something for the regular round. I mean, if heat rounds lose all their penetration value, is there going to be even a point to having a difference between the two, or should like there just be an APCR instead with a little bit more pen? It seems like a kind of a weird change when you start looking at those tanks. What do you guys think?
Well, well, it's still heat, right? So it's still going to do explosive damage, right? So that alone should be considered as a benefit to using heat.
So you think that's going to be like the key thing on that now is the actual explosive portion of it? I mean, it's all still very.
It's hard to even speculate when we don't have any
Yeah.
concrete info. I mean, we don't know how the rounds are going to work, what kind of pen changes they're going to have. I mean, I
So
don't know. Let's just say that
let's
heat's totally terrible now and we want APCR. Let's go with that. Why not?
let's just break it down to the two tanks that we know then, like the M4 Sherman and the PC4. Like, what kind of effect do you think on losing, 45 penetration is going to have in those tanks? Do you think people are still going to be crazy derp? Do you
Well,
think that
there's
makes that
not
big
going to
of a
be
difference?
anymore as much, I guess. Hopefully, people it will force players to play tanks that are somewhat more balanced. But I'm sure stat patterns will still find their way.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, it'll be
it's
interesting to see.
T54s right now, anyways.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens to T54 in that regard.
Hmm.
Hard to fix that one. Hard to fix that one. Some of the tier 9 mediums, man.
Yeah.
They're balanced for tier 10.
Yeah, I think we've had a bunch of rounds recently with the T54 just being absolutely insane. Hmm. Well, I mean, that's really all we have on the heat rounds. There's not a whole lot of information, so let's just talk about artillery. We'll go to that. Because the heat round thing does affect some of the artillery. So, um, now, starting out talking about artillery, I just want to look at, because obviously artillery is my thing. And we talk a lot about tournaments, and that's the focus of the show, so let's go with it in that area. So I want to do a comparison between what the stats that we're seeing now off the super test and then what it is from this, or what it is currently. So starting out with like tier 6 artillery, which is a pretty big staple, we have the GW Panther versus what is now going to be the new tier 6, the Hummel, as it's being moved up. You can see the different values here that are kind of changed between the two looking at it from a tier 6 standpoint. So rate of fire dropped by 0.25. We have obviously the different levels in average penetration, which is an effect of the heat being changed, so it's down to just 185. Although at a tier 6 artillery, you're probably not shooting heat a lot. Damage difference being pretty dang big. You're going down to 950 average damage versus the 1200 that the GWP was doing. The big thing here, accuracy going from 0.43 up to 0.74. Aiming time going up from 6.3 to 7, and then the other stats don't really matter at this point. Those are big changes here. Just to give an example, looking at like the oh, Soviet. Yes, I am crying. I'm crying profusely. So just for a comparison, so we're looking at the .74 accuracy. A T-92, which is like the most inaccurate artillery piece in the game with the longest aim time, has a .62. It's the most inaccurate, isn't it? You're shaking your head no. What's more inaccurate than a T-92?
Just saying. I don't, I don't think the statement was 100% accurate, but I
Really?
don't know off the top of my head.
I just went through all the guns
Continue.
that are at the top. So
Continue.
.74 is pretty dang inaccurate. I can't think of any current ones that are .74. What do you guys think this effect's going to have on tournament play when, I mean, you have a gun it's going to fire slightly less often, but way less accurate than what a GWP currently does? Well, let's start out with you, David, since you're just blankly looking at it. How is this going to affect your choice in bringing artillery on those kinds of maps when...
Not going to bring it.
Yeah.
What's the point? And I'm fine with that. I think everything that artillery brings can be solved with autoloaders. You know, previously the argument for artillery was that if somebody camps, how do you get rid of them, right? You have to come around the corner into them and whatnot. That's not entirely possible now that you have autoloaders. You can just bring multiple autoloaders around a corner and still hit things. I think that artillery still has somewhat of a use tactically before these changes, but after these changes, .74, I mean, no, not with, at least not with my RNG. And I think that's kind of a weird way to go with it. Teams that bring arty and it actually works for them, that's basically at that point just luck. You know, it's 7.74. You're not controlling that at all. That is utterly ludicrous and completely inaccurate.
What
Go.
I want to bring into this conversation was today was actually the last round in the Golden League for Himmelsdorf map, and it was Red Rush versus Nod in the finals, and it was their main, like, kind of a match of the week sort of thing. And they had an interview with Deluxe, and he brought up a really good point, and kind of building on what David just said, it's an interesting way to deal with arty. That Wargaming decided to do this. 10%, I think 10% increases across the duration of flight, you know, aiming time, then of course huge accuracy hit, and only about 10% decrease or something very small in terms of damage. So they're still dishing out lots of damage. And he was like, well, you're still playing a lottery with arty. If you're bringing an arty, you're a lottery team. If you make the shot, all of a sudden you won the game. If you don't make a shot, you lost the game. And playing the lottery system, playing the lottery kind of makes it hard for, like, for example, in steps, right? There's so many good arty players now that, you know, they can hit those 50-2 scouting pretty much, you know, first time they get lit, bam, 50-2 is dead. That is going to be most likely gone now, which is going to force teams to actually play a lot more dynamic, like a lot more tank on tank, less involved on arty shots. But the teams that do bring an arty, they still have a chance to win that lottery, hit that 74 whatever accuracy shot, do one shot kill, whatever. 50-2 is what, 560 hit points, right? So you can kill that. 900, I think, for the Hummel, right? 900 damage. Or GWP.
950.
950
is the new damage.
But it was before 1200, right?
Right.
So very slim change in terms of damage output. And it seems like, and I tend to agree with that opinion, that perhaps keeping everything the same, lowering damage was the proper way to do it. But if they're going to do it this way, I'm afraid that they're going to take a vital part out of this game for a lot of, especially for North America. I think in North America we need better arty players, because definitely Relics is not good enough. But we need better arty players. We need players to take take arty seriously. But now I think it's going to take a lot of that out of the game. We're going to see less and less arty. It's going to be on a decline, and it's a vital dimension of this game. Being, knowing arty cover on the maps. Can you imagine, like, 3 months from now, players that are playing this game are not going to even know where to hide from Artie. They're going to be just like, oh, da 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 da, and off they go. And all of a sudden, there's an Artie there, and that Artie is going to have a field day. So I hope that doesn't happen, but we shall see.
Yeah.
I agree with Deluxe completely there. Somewhere today, I was saying basically the exact same thing. Um, it's a weird way of dealing with it because it just plays to RNG at that point, and I think he's exactly right. I wouldn't necessarily say about lowering damage, but about making damage and artillery more consistent in general. Because right now, the difference between a GWP shot that hits, say, a WZ-132, it could be 300 damage, and I'm talking direct body contact. 300 damage, or it could kill the entire tank. Well, how are we supposed to plan around that, right? You always have to be concerned that Artie's going to one-shot one of your tanks coming in. And in a competitive match, it's not unfeasible for an artillery to literally one-shot multiple tanks in a row. He has to get lucky with his rolls, but he also has to hit them. And there's a decent element of strategy and tactics or skill in there. But it is still very RNG reliant. So if they can cut down the effect of RNG, then I think that would be the right way to go. And in this instance, they've, in essence, enhanced RNG's role even greater. And that's confusing to me. I think, for me, the jury is still out on whether competitive play is going to miss artillery or not.
Yeah. So just thinking like the effect of not having artillery at all on a map, do you think that's going to affect the types of lineups you bring to? I mean, right now you look at Steps and Prokhorovka and those maps, and all the lineups you're looking at are like straight 1390s and WZ-132s and things that are fast that can take quick control of the map for vision. That way artillery can do work, and then you eventually make a push, or occasionally you bring all fast to try to counter somebody that's bringing artillery, so you can move on them too fast so they can't use it. Do you think that's going to change the dynamics on those maps a lot more, not having artillery? Do you think they're going to see like heavier, faster tanks being used? Because there's no reason to hide from artillery anymore. You might as well use those hit points.
One thing we might see is the use of lower tier artillery just to keep that pressure, or mental pressure, I guess, or psychological pressure on the team, even if it doesn't, if the chance of it hitting or doing more damage or whatnot is lower. But this actually kind of brings up another topic that I think we'll see develop more and more now. Right now, if we look at tournaments, they're dominated by autoloaders. Pretty much, it's how many autoloaders you can cram on a team with a little bit of beefy tank to take some shots, right? So I don't know. Steps might see just a full autoloader like 1390 and a T69 setup now, and that's going to be it.
Yeah.
What do you think, David? I mean, of course.
I think the tanks that have high accuracy or fast traveling rounds or higher penetration, like a lot of the German tanks, for example, I think those are going to be seen more frequently at this point. I don't think that artillery is necessary to control an open map. I don't think everybody's just going to go all heavies and drive around, because there are still vast distances in which you can be spotted. You have to drive across, and you have to take fire the whole time. So I think really it's just going to emphasize different types of tanks. Autoloaders, maybe yes, but I think it's going to be in moderation. We'll see probably less of tanks like 32s and more tanks like King Tigers or VK4502As. Yes, they're big, but if you get them behind the right cover, they snipe like a boss. They fire really fast, and the 4502A gets from point A to point B really quickly. While he can be penned basically from China, it depends on how you use them. So if you have them hull down and overwatching, they can bring a lot to a fight that that artillery basically couldn't before, and that artillery did before and now can't. So I think it's going to be a lot more tactical in terms of cover fire for other people who get closer and bounding and things like that. Actual tank maneuvers instead of a metagame that basically heavily relies on avoiding arty, not getting caught in the open, and stuff like that. So I think the intent is to really speed up gameplay, and it certainly has that capability, but teams are going to have to adjust very quickly and really recognize the new way to play. But if teams keep bringing artillery, then I don't know. people may just get scared due to the lottery aspect you were discussing earlier.
Do you think it
Yeah.
might also have the opposite effect on that of like having people camp more because there is no artillery and they can do it a lot more safely? I mean, that's always been the big myth is artillery prevents camping. Like everybody always says that's the big defense for it. Do you think that would actually be the case? I mean, take Prokhorovka for example. You have the large forest that's right next to the caps, perfectly set up to just sit there and watch. Do you think that's going to be something that's going to, be more encouraged when you don't have to worry about artillery to fire on you at all?
I think that is one way that people may interpret it to begin with, but if you have American tanks hull down along that ridge along Prokhorovka, then what good is your camping? You get some faster tanks directly near them where they can spot them or that they know they're spotted, and by deduction you can blind fire into bushes and all that, and if you're spotted up there as a 32 just sitting there and people are shooting at you, they've got to hit you in the hatch. They've got to actually do some damage to you, where previously you'd be afraid of doing that because an artillery's there. So what is really the difference, right? Before they would camp in the forest with an artillery, so you couldn't go hull down on them. You couldn't box them in using terrain because the artillery is going to make you pay for it. Now the artillery's gone and they just have to bring a real tank instead. Realistically, that shouldn't make that much of a difference. I think people may get in their own heads and go that direction with meta to begin with, but I don't think it's the answer at all. And I really hope people can get away from those kinds of concepts and play terrain the way it should be. But ideally, along with this, hopefully we'll get some increase in render range right now, because I think it's like 600 something, 700 meters. Isn't really far on some of these open maps. You need to be able to shoot all the way across the map to compensate for the lack of artillery, because that's one of the functions that artillery has, right? It can shoot anywhere. So if you can't see a target at all, how are you supposed to shoot it? So I think that change is going to be necessary very, very quickly in order to make sure that this metagame does play faster.
Cool. Any other thoughts on artillery Soviet? Do you think this is going to affect your gameplay as like a regular tank player more? Are you going to be able to? Do you think you'll be able to have more control based on that?
Well, definitely, definitely. I think every time I go up against a good arty player and I know he's good, it definitely puts a little bit of pressure on me as a player. For example, in a 1390, a tank that requires a lot more aim time, a lot more precise movements, precise shooting. You have to be a lot quicker with your shots and always on the move. Now that if arty is going to have less accuracy, who knows? I can just sit there. He'll miss, and I'll just keep shooting my clip, and off I go into the cover. I honestly think, though, that it's not going to have a negative effect where teams will start camping more instead of less. I think it's going to become more dynamic because, as we have seen, the more map control you have, the more map control you can grab, the most likely you're going to win. The more aggressive you are, the most likely you're going to win. There are going to be, of course, maps or more. I mean, there's still going to be a lot of scouting, a lot of, you're not going to just bum rush aside and, play Naga likes this rock, paper, scissors, right? You're not going to do that. You're not going to play with that with your tactics. But once you scout it, bam, off you go with your lineup, and tank on tank action, quick focus fire, and sharing hit points is going to be key.
Well,
Here's another point along that line. I think it's easy to get caught up in the concept of, say, for example, steps. Everybody's in the 8-9, and they got a bunch of 32s hull down in that line or something like that. How are you supposed to get there ahead of them? How are you supposed to stop them from doing it? And I think that's an answer of a direct approach when the thing you're looking for is how quickly can they get there? How can we intercept them on the way there? How can we use their choices in tanks to our advantage? We need to pull them out of there, so we put cap pressure on, right? They don't have artillery, so if you have one guy go sideways and everybody else piles behind him, oh, wait a minute, we can't reset that now. I think there's a lot of different ways of dealing with it, and I'm really excited to see, especially what the European and Russian teams start doing to compensate for that.
yeah, and that's kind of an interesting concept too. Do you think cap fast is going to become a bigger deal without artillery? I mean,
Definitely.
it seems
People
like it's
start
going to be a
bringing
lot
more
easier.
heavies. People start bringing more heavies, then speed is going to have to be used in some way, and cap fast is one of the first ways that's always going to work out.
One thing I wanted to bring up, though, is randomization of spawn points. That kind of keeps the timing so, off center sometimes. You spawn on the other side of the map than what you expected to, and all of a sudden your timing is completely off. Uh, I don't know. I think something also needs to be done there in terms of addressing that. If you want to go into a lot of the timing plays, because right now we don't have an accurate measure, right? We can't say you're going to get to a point A from your spawn every time within 15 seconds. It can vary. It can be 10 seconds because you get an awesome spawn, or it can be 30 seconds because you got absolutely the worst spawn possible.
Yeah.
But I'm excited as well. It's gonna be interesting. And relics, I don't know, man. I don't know what you're gonna do
Pro
now.
T1. Pro T1.
I think we're gonna get you some pom poms, and
It'll make it a
yeah,
lot easier to, just one-handed play like I do with artillery, just in a T1, sitting someplace.
I think T1 is a lot more intensive than that.
So I guess last question of the discussion. So let's theoretically say that all these changes go through, accuracy goes through the roof, and artillery is not played at all. Do you think this is a benefit to the pro esports scene not having that artillery gameplay in? Do you think it's going to be better for esports for it to be all tank on tank?
You want me to go first?
Yeah.
I'll take that one. I I am 60% against it, 40% for it. Uh, if that's anywhere close to a good answer, but I think that Artie does bring an exciting point to esports. To a lot of times, a lot of the matches that we've seen, uh, Artie makes a shot, and all of a sudden, Relix is the hero of the day. Artie misses a shot, nobody notices it, and the battle keeps going. So,
I notice.
well,
I hear it later
Well, I
from
notice
both of
every
you.
single one of them.
we're so used to it. We're so used to it that it's
Oh,
like,
Relics missed again.
Relics missed again. There we go. But what I was gonna say is that it does bring in a little bit of excitement, like a spike of it's like getting an ammo rack. Right now, ammo racks, you don't see them often in tournaments, but when you do, it's such an exciting play. I hope that removing Artie is not gonna take away too much of that excitement, too much of those exciting gameplays where one shot all of a sudden it's like the team that made that shot has a morale boost, and they're like, bam, tank dead, and off they go into the enemy and just kill them. So we'll see. And of course, from the esport perspective as well, is if they're gonna make Artie less popular in the pub games, that means less Artie players on the server. That means we're not gonna see teams that are strong with Artie at all anymore. So.
Nagatron?
I think it has the potential to make the game better in a lot of ways, especially for the viewership experience. You will see everything that happens instead of just having random explosions appearing or tanks dying and you're not entirely sure why. Plus, it's another guy that you can actually watch his perspective, because you can't stream watching an Artie. You'd have to stream that guy's actual computer to really see what's going on. And at the moment, we don't have that capability, although that could be kind of cool. I like the small Artie. I like, Bison, Sturmpanzer, and Su-26 and stuff like that, because they're just little nuisances and they have tactical uses, but they are a risk. But I don't feel that they are an unfair risk. Like, it's not playing the lottery, as Deluxe so eloquently put it before. Deluxe, however people actually pronounce his name over there. But when it starts getting into artillery like the S-51 or the M4043 or anything with one of those 203 millimeters, then I think that has no place in competition whatsoever. I think sometimes the GWP doesn't, because it hits too hard occasionally, like 800 just out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So I think overall I probably would have preferred that it had just been balanced to the point where you could play any map with or without it and still do just fine. But given the options of what we used to have and what they're going into now, I'd say I probably prefer their new changes.
Yeah.
It's probably the better way to go.
Do you think it's the right move, or I mean, like, is it in the right direction? Are they going in the right direction with this?
I think a change was definitely necessary. Um, so yes, I guess technically that is the right direction. I don't necessarily 100% agree with all of their decisions there, especially the accuracy stuff, but it's better than nothing. I think
Yeah.
that's my overall ruling on it.
So kind of the overall feeling is that in the current state of looking at tier 6 to tier 8 artillery, it was just too much. It was too much RNG on how much you're going to do and how much of an effect on the battle. I definitely agree with you as an artillery player. Like it's great getting those like, oh, one shot with the GWP, woohoo! But it's definitely more satisfying playing some of the lower tier artillery and it being more, I guess, more tactical play with it. It feels like I feel like I'm more effective in that low tier play on a lot of stuff like the Ensk and stuff like that, just because I can control certain areas of the map, and I'm a constant worry for autoloaders that I can actually penetrate, and so they have to be constantly worried about me. But I'm not taking up all the points that the team has to use for tanks.
Say,
I
for
definitely like that.
example, maps like Lakeville. Lakeville is very, very frequently a map that people bring artillery on because if you don't, then you kind of end up having to dedicate a whole lot of tanks in one direction, and that opens you up to a risk of a cap fast, basically. People can just rush down the valley and cap you out, right?
Hmm.
If you don't have that artillery, well, then how do you reset? And I think that has a potential to seriously harm competitive play in some aspects there. Um, on the flip side of that, you could now watch Valley with a TD, something that was unthinkable in the past. Because, say, you poked over that little ridge and you got tagged, and you know the other team has like an ISU or something like that, right? You get hit for 800, 900, and you're like, well, I know where the ISU is, and you blind fire the bush with artillery, and he's useless, right? Um, I still probably wouldn't want to be bringing TDs that much, but I think this may actually increase their usage in some ways, which, thinking about that a little bit more.
Is that good?
Uh, yes and no. That goes right back to the RNG thing, and I hate that.
As you get two
But
shot by an ISU 152 or heck, just
at
an
least
SU
that
152.
possibility is there. You at least have to be in a place where you can be shot and seen in order to shoot somebody with your ridiculous RNG gun. So that's at least kind of an
Something.
improvement, I guess.
Yeah.
Talking about TDs makes me sad.
Yeah, I know, right? It was like when we weren't thinking about TDs, it wasn't that bad of an idea, but now it's like, oh man,
Dang it.
what do I do with that?
All right, well, that was it that we had for discussions for today. I think we hit all the topics that we needed. Talked quite a bit about artillery there. So I think that was a good discussion, and hopefully, as the super test finishes and we actually get, live test and we can actually see these changes, we can talk about it again and see how it's actually going to affect us and how it's going to affect everybody for tournaments. So that's all we have for today. We're going to go ahead and let's do the Q&A. Soviet looks like he wants to say something, but I'm going to keep talking because I really don't care what he has to say.
Wow. Good one. Good one. Applause.
Thank
No,
you.
I was about to remind you about Q&A. I was worried that you might forget.
Oh, no, yeah. I was trying to give like a natural
All time.
closing and then jump into the Q&A. So,
All right.
so we can go through that. First of all, Jackie has a question, but he did not give me who this question is from. So I'm sorry that I'm not going to say your name. Is there a player in your team who is the pivotal or fulcrum player? Ooh, clever. This one's for you, David. You're the leader. Who is the
Ooh.
pivotal or fulcrum player?
It's an impossible question, really. I'd say overall, it would probably have to be, if I had to give an answer, because I think everybody brings their own certain contributions to everything, and I think we struggle without any one of our main guys in particular. But I would say it's probably Friction at this point. He's doing the bear share of the strategy work. He does a lot of the calling. He's a great player, and I certainly notice it when he's not there or when he's not running another prong of the team. And I think the synergy that he and I have, dual calling a lot of things, are is part of what makes our team work the way it does. Overall, I've been asked who's the MVP a couple different times, and it's always been Friction. So ultimately, stripping away all that other stuff, he's a fantastic player to begin with. So let's go with that one.
I think that's a good one. Hopefully he's not listening, because we don't need his ego to get any bigger after you saying that.
And chain him back to the radiator. Work on them strats.
Let's see what else we got. I actually got a message on the forums with a couple questions, so we'll go ahead and tackle just a couple of these for an umpire. First question, which light tank do you two think is the best? You want to go ahead and start off, Soviet?
1390. I love that tank. I think out of all the tanks, 1390 can hold its own, and it requires a bit of skill. It's a challenging tank to play. It's not one of those easy tanks to jump into right away. But once you get the hang of it, the things you can do with it are just, you can go up against any tank in the game really and come out on top if you play it right.
David, same boat, 1390.
Pretty much the 1390, but I mean that's a very
Broad.
simple answer to a very general question, complex question. I mean, depending on what. I mean,
depends on the mission, right? I guess, yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that I think the 132 is a fantastic light. I mean, I love that tank. If I had to choose one I was going to go play in a pub match, I'd pick the 132 every time. But in tournaments, it's quite clearly the 1390.
Pretty dominant, yeah. And then,
I do have a
the
question.
50-2 for scouting. Go ahead.
Yeah. I do have a question that was asked earlier. I just want to make sure we cover it real quick.
Yeah.
And this one is from Pepper. Do you think that Wargaming should start working on the older original tanks instead of making new lines and so on? For example, the 50B is not worth getting compared to the T57. That's all his wording. For starters, I think the 50B still definitely has its place. It's got some differences to the 57 that make it useful. To answer that question directly, yeah, I think there's a lot of original tanks, the Mouse, for example, that is just completely ignored. But I think their intent is to create power creep, so whenever they do revisit those, they'll probably become overpowered at some point, and I definitely see some business reasons and just kind of psychological reasons in terms of the player base of why they would continue creating new content instead of revisiting old stuff. But what do you guys think?
I mean, at least from my perspective, yeah, there definitely needs to be some balancing of the current tanks that are going on. I think they're doing that a little bit, just looking at like the heat round changes for the M4 Sherman and stuff like that. But there's definitely a lot more balancing that needs to get done, especially in terms of just making armor more useful. Because I mean, right now, for the most part, I can't think of a tank that's just like, oh, that armor, that's awesome. I can't get around that, or I need to be more careful where I aim with that. I mean, there's very few exceptions to that. What do you think?
Yes, definitely, and I think we're already seeing that. IS-7, for example, just recently got a little boost in its performance, and we're already hearing rumors of the Mouse and the E100, the super heavy tanks, getting some sort of armor boost, becoming some sort of a balance, overall balance. The one thing that it's not confirmed, but pretty much everybody knows it. New tanks have to be pretty and shiny and attractive for players to go after them, because otherwise they have a bunch of tanks already, and why would they go for for a new tank? So they obviously make new tanks somehow more attractive to players, or overpowered, or I don't know, something, right? But it's a game of statistics, game of numbers, and they have Wargaming has perfect picture of that. If anything, Wargaming does this better than any other game in terms of keeping track of collecting statistics. I think they have all the numbers. They can pull up anything they want, and they'll keep balancing it, whether we know it or don't. Interesting, exciting stuff coming in the next patch. Next few patches, I think we'll start seeing some of that develop, become a reality. And that might completely change the game. It might rejuvenate it. and make it more interesting for seasoned vets.
Yeah, definitely. Let's see. I got another question here from Crisis, which Krudo has posted like 5 times to me, so apparently he really wants me to ask this question. Crisis says, why is the T1 always used instead of other T1 tanks? And he just posted it to me like 8 more times. That is a great question.
Relics, would you be able to answer that question since you're one of the T1 drivers?
Because the T1 Cunningham is awesome.
It looks funny.
It does look funny. I don't know. I think in it, compared to any other T1, I mean, I can single clip any tank with it. It moves extremely fast, has good vision still.
Ability.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's very agile to move around. It's just easily the best T1 tank for the scouting job, really. So.
Pretty much.
Plus, its gun can clip any other T1.
Yep.
And pens some tier 8s. I think it was earlier today. Watch Deluxe pull up behind a 5100 in the Golden League and waste them. Love it.
That's awesome.
Every time.
It's fun to see it. All those numbers coming up. It's like
he did
like
it so pro too. It was like it wasn't like there was a long engagement and then he saw it and then came all the way over and showed up. He knew. He was like, oh yeah, they're gonna get him from the front and then I'm gonna show up from behind.
I always look forward to those moments where I can get behind a 5100 or something else light and be able to shoot it. I saw that look, David. Don't take it there. Don't take it there. What other questions we got here?
Relics.
Dirty
Relics.
old man.
What? I don't know what you're talking about.
Get to your questions.
I'm trying to see if there's any other posts. I don't see a whole bunch. And Jackie is definitely not doing his job. He's posted like one question 20 times, but doesn't grab any other ones. How did you all meet? It's not a bad question. Well, me and Nagatron at least met a long time ago through a gaming group of buddies. So we've known each other for several years. Soviet was a terrible puppy that just got randomly picked up in Forge. And then we played Clan Wars with him, and for some reason David was like, oh, he's an amazing IS-7 driver. Like, it was really tough at the time. I mean, everyone was an amazing IS-7 driver. It's not like it's that impressive. And so he started playing with us, I guess.
It was a forced introduction to Relics. Forced introduction.
It was the best.
So how far did you get in that
life.
story? Because I never listened to you talk. No, so you set up till.
I stopped at Soviet being indoctrinated. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
Who else
Well,
we
at that point, Friction and his guys were doing tournament stuff around the same time we were, and we just we were working together for Forge and NDP relation stuff. I think we were in a war together and some other things. So we just kind of kept talking and hanging out. I think we platooned a little bit, and then the topic of conversation just kind of popped up, and it was like, why don't we just merge our teams together? And we did that. A little bit later, picked up Absolute Royal, and here we are.
And the good times began. Friction had a question that I was going to ask. Would you consider docking a major part of your success?
I think it's really the most important element of any type. I think anytime we've been struggling, we clearly haven't been docking enough, and that is so overexposed, nobody can tell what it is.
It's just like a big glowy thing. Yeah, that doesn't help. It's just like...
it's like a creepy
I see
mouth.
a big mouth, yeah.
Okay.
That was a fail. That was a big fail.
That could have been so many things.
We definitely need to do more docking on the stream. We've been missing out on that. I don't think anybody might not know what docking is that even watching us, because I don't think Soviet does it anymore.
That would be a failure of those who've been streaming lately.
It is.
There's no docking going on.
Exactly. It's horrible.
I'm sorry. My comrades may think something going on there. So
Here's a
we
good
will
question. Oh,
we will demonstrate the variety of ways that you can dock with tanks in future streams.
Definitely. Here's a good question from GameWatcher08. How often do you guys practice in Fulcrum? And if anything, what makes you feel like you're a pro?
Feel like a pro.
Well, tackle the first question first. How often do we practice?
Try to practice 2-3 times a week.
And plus,
That's
we
not
end up,
always the case.
yeah.
Plus, we play a couple times a week, so we always
Yeah.
platoon together. So
I consider
as much
platooning
as we
practice
can,
too.
kind of.
A little
Sometimes.
bit. Yeah. It's at least
I know
like,
Soviet doesn't at all.
We logged like 42 games yesterday.
yeah, yeah. So go to that second part. And if anything, what makes you feel like you're a pro? Do you guys feel like
Well,
you're pro gamers?
stayed at a Holiday Inn last night. No, I don't think that being professional is necessarily something that you feel or that is just bestowed on you. It's a decision to take something seriously to try and become a pro at it. Technically, if you make money doing it, it is somewhat a profession. But I think, even if we had won every single bit of cash that has been put down for North America at this point, we wouldn't even be anywhere close to making what we have out of yearly salaries and whatnot. So, best answer is just because we decided to make an effort to try and be professional about how we approach the game and be serious about our competition and our play with the hopes that whenever pro leagues and stuff really are coming out and sponsorships are floating around, which they have been for a while, that we would be able to turn it into a career.
Cool.
I I agree with that. I agree with that. And I mean, right now, if we were to say, if somebody was asked to ask me whether, I'm a pro or not, I would definitely say no. Not even close to it. And I feel that even today, the players in the games, other games that are playing this, I feel that they're not, taking it as serious as they should. I think there's a lot more growth left in esports to actually be truly professional at gaming, because I think there's a lot of aspects to it besides just playing the game that need to happen for you to become a true professional at what you're doing. Otherwise, yeah, semi-pro, amateur, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, but that pro is a big title, and you got to have a lot of a lot behind you to call yourself a pro.
Oh yeah, I agree with what both of you said. It's good. Next question is from Addix. What's the medium line for public play that you enjoyed the most? I'm gonna go ahead and say the American median line up to the T69.
American.
Because we still play the heck out of the T69 because it's so fun.
The 69 was awesome. The Patton, the
Oh, yeah.
M46 Patton, oh my god, that thing is awesome.
The Persian
Gun on
in its day
that
was
just
really good
has
too.
no business being on a medium. 400 plus, what? What? I hated the Russian grind, but I did it back when they weren't nearly as good as they are now.
I think Soviet might be turning red right now. Can't believe you said that.
I'm
What
biased,
about you,
so
Soviet?
I'm not-
Medium line?
Oh.
What are you going for?
Chinese.
So still Russian, basically.
Soviet tanks all the way.
Next question is actually, I like this question. It's from ePepper2. What made you come up with your names? So we'll do some name stories. I don't think we've done that yet. So Soviet, let's have you start out. Where did your name come from?
Soviet was my call sign when I used to fly in a virtual squadron of for actually Flanker, the very first series, and it kind of stuck around. Then I switched around different nicknames and whatnot, but then 13 got introduced because of superstition. 13 actually in Russia, you don't have 13 anywhere. They are very superstitious, and they don't have apartment number 13 never in a building. They don't have like one of the things I was researching was numbers on aircraft. They also skip that number all the time, and I'm not a big not a big fan of superstition. I think everything that happens is very well calculated. So except for RNG. But that's where the 13 came from, and kind of makes the name more unique than just Soviet spelled out normally. So some lead speak there for you guys.
Very nice, very nice. David.
Better than relics. Better than
It
relics.
probably is, yeah.
Me. Mine is basically just a combination of Cobra from G.I. Joe and Decepticons from Transformers. Um, there's a bunch of other elements that come into that, but there's a logo
How long have you been sporting that?
making that kind of push the name. Since we were playing WoW,
It's probably like
whenever Burning Crusade was, I don't know, like '07, '08.
5, 6 years, yeah.
I
Something
think it
like
was '07, something like that. I did use it a little bit before that, but I didn't really adopt it until after that. I think before that I might have been. Was I still Whoopi Goldberg at that point? Dude, Soviet, you missed out
The
on some
stories
fun,
that come out.
fun with Whoopi Goldberg. Like Whoopi hacks. Like, no, man, no eyebrows makes you aim better. It's about to be Sister Act 4 up in here. Oh, dude, so much
Some of
trolling
those
with Whoopi
names.
Goldberg.
Oh boy.
So much trolling.
How long have you been Soviet with your gamer tag?
Since 2000. I started playing multiplayer games when I moved to the United States, and StarCraft. From StarCraft, pretty much was the first multiplayer game that I was playing big time. It was Soviet, 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 and so on. And of course, I mean, one of the main reasons for Soviet is Soviet, of course.
Of course.
So I mean, I just I kind of talked about the other parts, but Soviet I feel that a lot of Russians, modern Russians especially, are kind of looking down on the history of Soviet Union. I think it's a big part of what we are, and want to keep that legacy going.
Yeah, yeah. I guess I should go myself. Relics I actually stole from somebody else. Well, kind of stole.
Surprise!
So it was like way back in the day, back in Dark Age of Camelot. That was like back in 2000. I was playing with a bunch of people, and one of the characters' names, his first name was Searchu, his last name was Relics. And I, for some reason, just really liked his last name of his character. And so I named my first character that I played with Jolly Q and all the friends that me and Nagatron have. I named it Relics, and I've been that since 2000 something or other. So yeah, that's where mine came from.
I think your name before that was Useless Ranger, right?
No, that's the name I got as I went through everything. It was always Useless Ranger. Ah, those were the days.
And now it's Grandpa Relics.
I don't know.
Gramps.
I think
or
it should
really
be
bad.
Elder Relics. Elder Relics. Sounds better.
Yeah, Elder Relics.
It's better than Grandpa. It's a lame name. Lame.
Look to the Elder Star. So terrible. So terrible.
Someone's been playing Skyrim. Let's see. What else we got here? Bass Mode was asking, what changes do you guys think would make armor viable?
Base mode.
Base mode.
Base.
Bass Mode, right? Like the fish?
Base mode.
What changes do you
Oh.
guys think make armor viable but not overpowered? We'll probably go for like another, what do you think, 5 minutes? We'll stop pretty soon. We've been doing like 20 minutes of Q&A. Yeah,
Matter if they have more questions.
that's true. Hey, Lee, at least you got a picture that actually works. You didn't fail that time.
This picture does not fail.
So armor changes. What do you guys think? Just increasing armor values, reducing penetration
Repeat the
values?
actual question.
What changes do you guys think would make armor viable but not overpowered? It's kind of a hard question.
Remove normalization. Bring in angles. Bring in more angling. Make angling
But-
more
Normalization.
normalization. What? It reduces the angle of the shell coming in.
Yes, kind of. It's a realistic physical calculation, though. It, I would say decrease penetration. I don't think you need to really make any
Fair
sort
enough.
of adjustments to your armor. I think the guns are what are completely historically inaccurate, if I remember correctly. Mm,
It's a hard question. Goes either way.
What's hard about it is we don't know a lot of the things, a lot of the mechanics that are in the game already. We don't know a lot of the formulas that they're using, right? We don't know a lot of the stats. A lot of the stats are hidden from us as players.
Which is a problem.
Maybe, well, it's a problem and it's not a problem in its own right. I mean, you don't. There's certain things that players shouldn't know, and otherwise it becomes a card game that Relics really likes.
Sweet. Yeah, but you're right. It becomes a math
Well, like
problem.
it's a math problem, right? You want to keep certain things away from the general base at least.
Yeah. So hopefully that answered the question as far as what everyone thinks.
Not at all, but baby.
Hopefully something.
There's a block of text that's probably a question.
Holy crap, that's a big block of text. Any chance that you guys would let non-pro followers platoon with you just for fun? Maybe for some promotion? I think we've been asked this for a few times there.
And
Go ahead,
and I
Zach.
answer that. I mean, I answer that as much as I can. The thing is, first of all, every chance, a lot of us don't have a lot of, a lot of us work and a lot of us have other obligations that we have to do. And when we're playing, it's best that we play together as, Fulcrum guys and stick around and work on the cohesion and communications and all of that. I've done it before. I mean, I did it once before when all the other guys were busy and I was streaming. I did platoon with some players, and I mean, I can definitely see some sort of a special event once in a while, but I think it's not going to be regular, especially because we have a lot of tournaments coming up, and hopefully, the future of esports World of Tanks continues growing, and in that case, I can only see us getting busier and busier. And of course, we're promising more newer format stuff. Like we're all all Nagatron and Relics are all involved in NVidia casting right now. That's going to take up a lot of their time. I want to do some casting as well for replays of various tournaments here in North America. So it's gonna be busy and no promises. But if we do, you'll know about it. That would be my best answer.
Cool.
You wouldn't want to platoon with Relics anyway. It's it's hard. It drains you. You go to bed and you're like, just carried Relics for 35 games.
What a hater. Base mode, I'm sorry, but I got a link for you here just to make you feel better about it. Oh my god, that became a big link.
Oh god.
What have I done? What have I
Failing
done?
internet.
Hopefully that link actually opens up to what I want. Oh yeah, it does. There you go.
Unfazed, yes. Some we're working on, or I'm working on right now. I'm currently the only person who posts for it, and I've been doing a very bad job of that lately because I've been crazy busy. It's about all I can say about it right now, though. But you can expect a new one in the next day or two. Should be IS6.
Ooh, nice.
We'd have them more often if people actually followed through on what they said they would do. I have people all the time. They're like, "Oh, I'll write for this," and I'm like, "Okay, cool. I'll leave that one for you." And then it doesn't happen. On the flip side, there are some people who write them and then they require some editing, and I don't have the time to do that. So we're just gonna move on from that topic for now.
Probably safe to do. So now I gotta find a. Oh, that didn't work right.
Okay. I think Soviet's flirting with himself in a mirror again.
I wouldn't be surprised. Oh, hey, there might be questions from Jackie. He keeps pinging me. Uh,
Nick is
Bannerlack.
asking a
Oh,
question.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay.
We'll ask this one next.
Well, the other day Soviet was saying that efficiency isn't the best measure of player skill. What is? We spoke about it numerous times, and it's a popular question.
Do
Yeah.
you want to?
Crickets. Do I want to answer it?
David? Win 7? Is it important?
Let's win 7. WN7. It's the most accurate one right now. I don't think you can really really look at any single one of them and get a true picture of who a player is. You have to look at all of them, and you have to know those tanks and see as many pieces of statistics as you can, but ultimately none of them really matter all that much. But if you had to pick one that mattered the most, it'd be win 7.
Yeah, I am. Sorry, I'm pulling something else up. I found a correct
For
link
me-
for everybody.
For me, it's hit ratio. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I would have to say, like, the win 7, all that stuff, all the efficiency things.
What did I just click?
Oh, that one doesn't have the thing on it. Oh. I gotta find the right one now. Because there's one that has a. Like, alright, I'll find it. I'll
Why
post
is
it.
this happening right now?
It's drop the base.
Oh,
It's not a
God.
pass, but.
Oh, God.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think the efficiency stuff is really a real accurate way of telling how good somebody does. And I think we've talked about this before, where how somebody plays in a standard match may not be how they play in a professional match. Because I mean, you play standard matches for fun. You might do stuff like YOLO, like what Hugo does all the time. I mean, although he still has good stats. It's not exactly, always the most accurate. Thank you, Wraith. That's perfect. Perfect. That's exactly the link. I
His
looking
was so
for.
much better.
Oh yeah. You're gonna have to edit that into the video, man.
What, did Crisis post one too? Oh no.
Tank Talk is now going to be everybody post gifts to each other for an hour a week. And Tank Talk got significantly better.
All right. So we'll take a couple more questions, and then if we want to, we'll go do some matches or something after this. We'll change this from Tank Talk to that since we've been going on for so long. Question from Bannerlack. If you start over with RD, what would you do and why? I mean, I guess I'd end up... I assume you're talking about if artillery just gets nerfed to the ground, what will I do then? Play a lot of T1 in tournaments and probably just sharpen up on my other tank skills and see what other tanks we could use to fill stuff out. I mean, that's all I can really do. I can play other tanks just as well. Right? Right? Yeah?
Okay.
This is a rhetorical question, right?
Let's see the other immediate questions that are... I think we're good. I think we're done. Let's take a break. We'll go ahead and end it there. You gonna do some tank streaming after this? So everybody knows?
Perhaps.
Perhaps?
Perhaps.
Perhaps.
Perhaps. There'll
Alright.
be a 25% RNG in that statement.
Okay. Plus or minus?
Yes.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us on episode 7 here with our super crazy long Q&A because I just didn't feel like ending it for some reason, and they're probably complaining about it right now. Yeah, we'll see you guys next week. Hopefully, I'll put a Q&A up here pretty quick for General Direction, who we're gonna have on probably sometime in June, so we can try to get some questions ready for him. And yeah, we'll see you guys next week or after the stream when he's doing tanks, one or the other, something like that. Goodbye.
See you guys.